Okay, we're good, Graham?
We are good.
Thank you.
Good, thank you very much. Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. I'm going to have a motion to approve the agenda. Moved by Director Richmond, seconded by Director DeMare. Call the question, all in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. 4.1, need a motion for ministerial order number M192. I won't read the whole thing. Could I move that, please? Moved by Director Birch-Jones, seconded by Director Race. Call the question, all in favor? Motion carries. Do we have any rise and report from our closed meeting, Kristen?
Nothing from the, I have something from a previous closed meeting, which is from the May 27th, 28th board meeting, which is the Fire Protection Services Agreement pertaining to Wedgwood's Estates. So, and that was to be risen and reported on after the agreement was signed, and the agreement has now been signed.
Now been signed? Okay, so we just need to move receipt of that?
No, it's just to let you know that that will show up now, because it'll just be, you'll see it on the minutes in this, under this item.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
number 6.1 and 6.2 are delegations that are scheduled for later. Number 7, consent agenda. We have someone move, or does anything need to be removed from the consent agenda? Director Birch-Jones.
Just one small comment on 7.2.1, please.
So you want that removed?
Yes.
Okay, so where can we put that, Melanie? 7.2.1. Put it.
We can put it as under staff reports as item 10.10.
10.10. Okay, thank you very much. So with
And
the,
sorry, Director Birch-Jones, would you like Suzanne available for that, or for that comment / question?
Oh, it's a simple comment.
Okay, thank you.
okay, thank you. So I'm going to have someone move the consent agenda minus 7.2.1, moved by Director Birch-Jones, seconded by Director DeMare. Call the question, all in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Any business arising from the minutes? Hearing none, we'll go on to bylaws. 9.1, request for decision zoning amendment bylaw number 1649, electoral area C, retaining wall amendments. Can I have someone move? It's adoption.
I'll move that.
Moved by Director
I'll move
Mack.
that.
Moved Director Mack, seconded by Director DeMare. Any comments or questions? Call the question, all in favor? Opposed, motion carries. 9.2, request for decision, Whistler Sport Legacy Society zoning amendment application, Whistler Olympic Park, seasonal campground use. Have a motion regarding that? Director Race? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Move deferred to the next meeting.
Seconded by Director Birch-Jones. Any comments, questions? Call the question, all in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Number 10, CAO verbal update, 10.1.
Thank you, Chair Rainbow. The only thing I would like to say is I'm very happy to be here with all of you, and I look forward to working with everyone across the region.
Okay, thank you very much. We're very happy to have you here as well. So, 10.2, information report, climate action overview. Where's my list of people? Who have I got for 10.2? Pip somewhere. Is that Philippa with that sort of?
Yeah, I think
sound?
she's in the process of connecting, and I
Oh, okay.
believe that Angela and Kim will also be joining us for this.
Okay. Philippa, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, you have the floor.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Apologies, I'm just catching up to the change in schedule. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen today. I have a brief overview of climate action here, including action underway at the SLRD. It's hopefully information that will be useful to inform work in this area as we move forward. Being mindful of time, I might suggest that we leave questions until the end, and that will allow sort of for you to look at the schedule as we go ahead. So that would be my suggestion.
Yes, we'll do that.
Thank you. So just one moment, I'm going to start sharing my screen. Just one moment here, please. And then I'll check to make sure you can see it. Okay, can you just please let me know if you can see my screen right now, the climate action overview presentation?
Yep, we can see it.
Fantastic, thank you. So let's get started on this. There's a number of board resolutions referring to climate action. This report and presentation has been developed in response to the first, which is from the SLRD strategic plan, and that's to develop a community energy and climate action plan in line with the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, science-based targets, and including water conservation and food sustainability as guiding principles. This report and presentation also refers to the second, which references development of a climate adaptation assessment as well. The others have been included because these have been items that have been raised recently, which are related to climate action as well, or correspondence received in that area. So climate action, climate science tells us that there's a rise in greenhouse gas emissions, and that is causing global warming, which is having an impact on both ecosystems and human health. There's going to be a broad range of climate impacts. When it comes to addressing this issue, there are two approaches to essential elements. The first is mitigation. So these are strategies to reduce greenhouse emissions, which can include reducing emissions, but also carbon sequestration. For adaptation, we're looking at what are the changes going to be in our local area, and how do we adapt to them to meet them. And those adaptation strategies are useful to build resilience, both within organizations and within communities. The diagram from the Capital Regional District here just provides an overview of where the work of the SLRD could occur in mitigation and adaptation, or is occurring, and that noting that there is that overlap in the middle where work can happen, work towards both can happen. This diagram has been borrowed from the District of Squamish plan. It is, again, just an overview of the fact that this climate action is happening at all levels of government. There are different plans in place that utilize the authority at each of the levels. And so there are actions happening at all levels of government right now. The diagram also includes community as part of this, because it's residents and businesses who are participating through their individual choices. And that's an important notice there. Referring to the science-based targets in the board resolution, I just wanted to step through what these are for the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. These are just sort of the facts that we need to look at as we look at this work. So the IPCC warns that we must limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius if we are to avoid significant negative impacts. Average global temperatures have already increased by 1 degree, and they will exceed that 1.5 degree in the next 10 to 30 years if we do not take urgent action to reduce greenhouse gases. And the target that they set to keep warming under 1.5 degrees Celsius is to reduce emissions by 45% by 2030, and for us to be net zero by 2050. Note that there are other targets out there by other bodies, and we can talk about that a little more in future slides. It's been extremely helpful to look at the work done by the Resort Municipality of Whistler and the District of Squamish in their climate action plans. I appreciate that there are members of this board that are far more familiar with this work, and so I do, please forgive my quick summary of that body of work that's been done. Just to step through, both the municipalities have created strategies and actions for tackling the energy usage and the climate change. They've included direct and indirect actions, so they're items that the municipalities can address, items that can be incentivized to create action. There are educational actions and there's partnership actions. The District of Squamish does focus on the climate change mitigation, so the greenhouse gas emissions, and they have other plans that look at operations and adaptation, whereas the RMOW has includes that analysis of climate change impacts within their plan. The RMOW is also working on a climate action big moves plan, which draws on their larger plan, and I believe that is still in draft form. There's a couple of things just to consider as we start to look at the SLRD and what their work is going to be. The plans from the District of Squamish and RMOW are based on impacts to and influence of municipalities. There's extensive public engagement and communication work has been undertaken throughout the process. They do have dedicated municipal staff to drive that work, and there are reporting requirements out of those plans that require resources. We start to look now at regional districts. The role of regional districts in climate action is dictated by the unique governance structure. Again, this image shows the coming together of the different levels of government, provincial and federal, and the areas in which they can have that impact. It also includes an understanding of, it just starts to break down a little bit more into the regional versus the electoral areas and where that action can occur, which is relevant to the service structure. Not specifically mentioned here, but I would like to raise the relationships and reconciliation with First Nations communities. It's obvious that collaboration and communication are important aspects of climate action. It's too big and complex an issue for any one entity to do itself. So moving forward, it is a group effort and action. So bearing in mind that unique structure of regional districts, we did a preliminary survey of what other regional districts are doing, how they are approaching this task. The approach does vary widely, and the appendix in your report does contain brief descriptions and links out to other regional districts' work, if you'd like to look into that. I think that the variety of approaches, it does speak to the complexity of planning effective action in this sphere. Some quick observations from that survey. There is a challenge with measuring greenhouse gas emissions. It's a complex issue. Yeah, a brief summary would be that there's a lack of complete data available for measuring emissions at a local level. And that does have a measure on the targets that are set, the measurement and the reporting for a climate action plan. The second, climate projection, climate change impact analysis, that refers back to that climate adaptation assessment that we see in the second board resolution. We note that regional districts will often split into both corporate and community plans, so internal, external. I have another slide to go a little further into that next. The next 3 points here are referring again to that collaboration and communication element and the approaches that are taken between public engagement, committees, and the sort of lobbying and information sharing piece that is also often included. We do have a couple of points here that reference the variety in terms of documentation that can be resulting from climate action. So you see everything from declaration of climate emergencies up to we have policies in place, and we have strategies, and then we have climate action plans. So there's a variety of approaches that have been taken there. Specifically for agricultural plans, there does quite a few regional districts have looked at a separate agricultural adaptation plan. And you know, in general, these are providing a lens for a climate lens for decision making moving forward. You know, I think it is generally understood that this is an urgent and evolving body of work, and there will be updates required regularly to both address what has been done, but also the changes that we are going to see. So again, that isn't a consideration for how we move forward at the SLRD. This slide is just helping sort of break down the internal and the external focus that a climate action plan or a strategy can address. It's fairly self-explanatory. You know, obviously we have operational items that may need to be addressed in terms of both mitigation and adaptation, and the same goes for our services. This slider on the bottom provides just to note that there are both direct and indirect roles. You can take those actions that can be taken. So some items will be easier to put into action than others. And that's also something that's helpful to consider as we look at a climate action plan. Speaking specifically to climate action at the SLRD now, it's very clear that mitigation and adaptation is going to touch on all of our departments and our operations and our services. A brief survey of senior staff has provided, you know, some areas in which they are already noting climate action is relevant, you know, within their areas of expertise. These are a mix of things that are in progress, they're under consideration, or they have potential to contribute to climate action. So, you know, please don't take this as a comprehensive list by any means, but it is being provided here to give you an understanding of the depth and the breadth of the work and the areas that are impacted. You know, for example, we have our business continuity and resiliency plan that has just been created. We have items like upgrading dikes, which is infrastructure, which will be important for adaptation to effects that we know are coming. We have our community preparedness, and it goes into the building codes and land use planning as well. So extensive areas under which this will be required to look at. We will be required to look at many areas under this work. So looking at climate work to date, the planning department has done a significant amount of work on climate action. Some of the documents that have been part of this work include the regional growth strategy, the integrated sustainability plan, the official community plans. There's an energy resilience task force and report. These documents contain climate action recommendations and actions pertaining to service delivery and corporate operations. But please also understand that other plans, such as our solid waste management plans, our agricultural area plans, asset management program, there's work going under these as well. The SLRD is also a signatory to the BC Climate Action Charter, and it takes place in the Climate Action Revenue Incentive Program, and that's spearheaded by Finance. And you'll see those reports come through, I believe it's annually. Moving back to the point on the regional growth strategy, the goal 11, will take action on climate change, was added in October of 2019. And this includes the adoption of the provincial BC greenhouse gas reduction targets. I'm going to go into that just a touch more in this slide, because the regional growth strategy is probably the most recent and formal capture of the climate approach for the SLRD. So the regional growth strategy seeks to address climate change through all of the directions in all 10 goals. Goal 11, take action on climate change, was added in October. Sorry, just repeating myself. It summarizes, what the approach is going to be for the SLRD, and these are the points that have been included in the regional growth strategy: reducing community-based greenhouse gas emissions and energy consumption, preventing or minimizing potential local impact, supporting localized renewable energy systems towards community resilience, protecting the carbon sequestration value of natural systems, engaging our communities on climate change, and ensuring climate change mitigation and adaptation planning is integrated in all community decision making. We already have a report from 2019 which summarizes the actions undertaken to date. And there are a number of strategic directions also included in that goal. For example, reduce personal transport emissions, explore adaptation and mitigation plans. And again, I just would note that the targets are the province of BC greenhouse gas emission targets. So if we refer back to the strategic plan resolution, we have the IPCC reference there. So that's an area that we may need to look at for an alignment. This slide is really to provide you with an overview of how all of the work that has been done at the SLRD can be incorporated or at least analysed for a climate action plan. This is an example from the Capital Regional District, and it shows, similar to the SLRD, how climate work is incorporated into a number of plans already. So these are the resources, but looking at resources and work on climate action currently at the SLRD. That's the preliminary work and background research for the climate action plan is currently using administration and environment services staff time on a project basis. Work is continuing on climate related initiatives noted in other strategic plans. There is $50,000 budgeted for climate adaptation assessment and a climate action plan. And the board has approved a 50% position for a dedicated staff member, which will be hired in the coming months. So this is where we're at now and the most recent work. As we move ahead, these are a collection of considerations for continuing work in this area. The first point references what I was speaking to before about some of the challenges around greenhouse gas emissions. That's an area that will need to be clarified to assist with our measuring and reporting. We don't currently have a sub-regional analysis of the climate impacts and vulnerabilities. Climate adaptation assessment can address that. Some of the climate actions set out in other reports have been completed or they are underway. It is important to note that the difference between the regional districts and the municipalities will be important to consider for driving effective strategy for the SLRD. The Climate Leaders Playbook has been identified as a helpful resource for elected officials. And I would encourage, I believe I've left a link at the end of this presentation, so please do take a look there. And there is a suggestion from staff, this is that a future report we can start to dig into some of these matters that have been presented today. So how the SLRD will approach public engagement, the mitigation and the adaptation aspects, corporate and community plans, if that's the direction we wish to go in, how we get the best data for each electoral area, or do we look at the region as a whole? What approach do we want to take in terms of a strategy, a plan, or do we look at what work has already been done and move forward with that? And what the board needs in terms of strategies or concrete actions. I would note in the report, we also had that there's an opportunity for the Pacific Climate Impacts Consortium to present to the board. it's a group that helps to bridge climate research and decision making, and that could also be helpful for informing this work. This is where the overview ends. Thank you very much for listening and for your time. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and I can take questions as needed.
Okay, well, Philippa, thank you so much. That was a very, very thorough presentation. I really appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions for Philippa? Director Birch-Jones.
First of all, thank you very much, Philippa. And I'm interested in what you said about the Pacific Group presenting to the board. I'd like us to follow up on that, but maybe what I should do first is just suggest, I would like us to have more regular updates on this in the future, maybe quarterly reports to the board. And I'm hearing that we haven't hired our part-time coordinator yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you remember, we put on a hiring freeze during well, until we had our new CAO in place. So we haven't moved that in that direction, not just for this position, but possibly other positions as well. So I think Melanie has that in hand now, and we'll be moving forward. Okay, so I was looking for a couple of motions. One just the receipt of this report. That's moved by Director Weave, seconded by Director Birch-Jones. Call the question. All in favour? Opposed? Motion carries. I'd like to direct you to page 2 at the initial next steps. And there are 2 bullets. One is that staff will request a presentation from Pacific Climate Impacts Consortium at a future meeting. And it goes on to say what PCIC is. And the second bullet is staff will bring a more detailed direction request in the coming months. So I'd like a motion to affirm that that's the direction we would like staff to take. Are you moving that, Director Birch-Jones?
Yes, please, with pleasure.
Okay, and seconded by Director DeMere. Any comment or question on that? Director Stoner, you're on mute. Yeah.
Thank you. Through the chair, happy to support these motions and realize that there is now a motion on the floor. So I will hold my question until we voted on the motion.
Okay, thank you. So I will call the question then. All in favour? Opposed? Motion carries. Director Stoner, let me come back to you.
Thanks. So my question was to staff. I'm just curious. I appreciate that there's been a lot going on and both internally personnel as well as COVID. But I didn't see a clear plan for spending out that $50,000. And is that something that we're hoping to wait on until we have that coordinator in place, or is that something that we think we can action sooner than that?
Who would like to handle that question? Philippa or Melanie?
I think that is more appropriate for Melanie to answer. Thank you.
Find the unmute button. So I think it's going to be easier once we have a person in place that will have the time available to be able to dedicate to actioning those initiatives.
Yeah, we are behind on a lot of things, and we knew that in February when Linda left us. We knew that some things were going to be put on the shelf until a later date, and we also recognized, or we determined, that we would not hire any staff, that we would wait until Melanie was in place before any new staff were hired. So yeah, there are things we can look at and say, oh, we didn't know about this, we wish we'd known, and so on and so forth. I think moving ahead now, we can play some catch up. We can get the hiring done that needs to be done, and we can try and meet some of the targets that we haven't met the targets that we established in our strategic plan, but we recognize that we need to pick up speed and to do that. Director Stoner.
Yeah, and I think that that's totally reasonable and justifiable. And I think we all did know that that there'd be a few delays in some of this. And I think that that's okay. I think we all recognize that there's still the climate emergency is an emergency. And so the work on this is, I think, from my perspective, still very pertinent and very timely to continue to push forward. That being said, I fully recognize the limitations, and I don't mean to ask that question in terms of pressure on staff. I was just trying to get an understanding in terms of really, as we then go and look at the budget coming forward, I do think it's something important for staff to consider is the amount of work that we have had to postpone through 2020 and what those carryovers are going to be, and just do a bit of a gut check and reality check as we go into 2021. I think we recently had this conversation at the District of Squamish as well. There has to be recognition that things are also taking longer given the new normal that we're operating in. And so I'm okay with that, but I just wanted to get clarity on where that spending was happening and how that might impact the future budget. So thank you for the update.
No, fair enough. Thank you very much. Any other comments on this? Director Birch-Jones?
Thank you. And also along the lines of this being an urgent and evolving situation, I mean, there have been some things that are this is so tough because it's kind of hard to measure sometimes what doesn't happen. It's a little bit like public health, right? But we do have solar panels on the rec centers through the gas tax. Like that's been, that was a pretty significant action here in the north that happened over the summer months. And I'm hoping that we can capture some of those things and like have real measures. And that will be something like exciting that we can look forward to, because there are some good things going on. This report, now that it's been adopted, I think the ACT group that's presenting sometime after 1 o'clock today from Lillooet will be, maybe they're listening in to this meeting, but this will be something really good to be able to pass on to them. And I really appreciate the links that you provided. Thank you. And also, I'm really delighted that you were able to borrow a lot from Squamish and Whistler. There's a heck of a lot of work to be done. So if we're helping each other, as we agreed to do as a regional district, I'm really pleased about that. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. Any further comment? Okay, well, once again, Philippa, thank you very much for a very comprehensive report. And as you can tell from the comments you've received, it's something that's been well received and something that we consider to be really important. So thank you. And we'll now move on to 10.2, request for decision investing in Canada infrastructure program. Kristen, was Patricia able to join us?
Yes, I believe
She's just
there
coming
she
in.
is.
There she is. Hello, Patricia. Are you enjoying your course?
Hi, yes, I am very much.
Good.
It's going really well.
So would you like to make a couple of comments about this Canada infrastructure program?
Sure. So last month, we brought forward a report with some information on projects to be considered through the current ICIP intake. And one of those projects that we were hoping to speak to was the Community Food Hub project with the Lillooet Agriculture and Food Society. But we didn't have a lot of information at the time on the scope or the budget for that project. So we suggested that we could come back to the board at this meeting with more details. Timing being what it is, however, and given that this project continues to evolve, we still don't have a lot of information on this project in terms of the scope or the budget. However, we have had ongoing discussions with LAFS, and they are about to receive a proposed business plan for a cold storage facility, which the business plan was funded through a different grant program. And they are now presented with an opportunity to potentially combine the cold storage facility with the Community Food Hub project. So that's where the change in scope has come into play. But unfortunately, as I've said, they still don't have the details around the scope of the project or the budget. But having talked with them, they have indicated that if the project comes together, and it could do so in quite a quick timeframe, there may be a need to purchase equipment to support this sort of new combined facility that would house both the cold storage facility and the food hub. So today, with that limited bit of information that we have, and given that we would not be able to come back to the board prior to the October 22nd deadline for this intake, we are recommending that the staff would continue to work with LAFS, and they're certainly stick handling this project in terms of gathering the information and would be more than happy to work really closely with us on the application itself. And that if, as the project scope becomes a bit more clear and the budget becomes more clear, and if it aligns with the grant program, that we would apply for funding in the amount of up to $75,000 for the purchase of equipment for that facility. And we've put in the $75,000 amount up to, recognizing that on the input from LAFS, that's a high number, so it would likely come in at lower than that. And just wanted to also stress that there would be no cost to the SLRD for this. So that would be, we would be applying through that grant program for 100% of what was required, and we're estimating at this point that it would be up to $75,000. So again, this is just in light of not having the full project details and budget, but wanting to, if the project does align within the scope of the grant program, wanting to be able to move forward, recognizing that we wouldn't be able to come back to the board before the deadline. I hope that provides a little bit of insight. If anyone has any questions.
Thank you. I'm looking at 10.3 and I'm looking at the first that, which is basically this proposal, but it doesn't mention the $75,000. So are you suggesting we add that on there, that add those words at the end or somewhere in there that we apply for, put the amount of money in there, or just leave it as it is?
Sorry, I just have my notes up on the screen, and I didn't have the staff report. I thought we did include that. Oh,
maybe I'm missing it. But
maybe I missed it. So sorry.
We could add that motion.
It's not unless I've got an outdated version of the agenda or something like that. It's not there.
No, it's not there. It's mentioned in the staff report, but it's not mentioned in the resolutions.
So do you feel we should add,
Right.
I think we should add that to the resolution then, so that it's clear. So we can put it in, we insert up to $75,000 in there at an appropriate place.
Yeah, we could put that right after the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program to a maximum of $75,000.
Okay, that's good. So in that case, with that amendment to include the amount of money, I think we can move both the paragraphs. So could I have a motion moved by Director Birch-Jones, seconded by Director Wiebe. Any questions for Patricia? Any comment?
Thank you, Patricia.
So, Director Stoner?
Yeah, happy to support this. I think it's a valuable initiative. I just flag for staff and Director Birch-Jones to also consider, if they haven't already, the Local Food Infrastructure Fund, which is another federal funding stream that emerged to support local food systems and community development. So it's a Local Food Infrastructure Fund.
Great, thank you. Any further comment? Call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Good. And oh, that's it, Patricia. I think. Yes. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your course.
Great, thank you.
Okay, 10.4. Request for decision tenure for Britannia Creek debris flood infrastructure and associated conveyance agreement. Graham, I believe you would like to report on this to us.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Staff is actually requesting a motion to defer this item to the October 28th board meeting. The item was included on this meeting's agenda as it was believed that the agreement was acceptable to both parties. However, the developer very recently, as of this week, requested this proposed deferral due to some ongoing uncertainty with provincial approvals. So staff is recommending now a motion to defer to the next board meeting.
Thank you, Graham. Can I have such a motion, please? Moved by Director Race, seconded by Director Ford. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And the next item, 10.5, information report, Jack Webster Bridge Replacement Project. Graham, bring us up to date on that.
Thank you once again, Chair. So the Jack Webster Bridge Replacement Project is on hold until 2021. There were several limiting factors which prevented construction from taking place this year, including the timing of receipt of final funding approval. So funding approval for the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program was not received until mid-June, likely due to delays caused by the pandemic. The timing of the fish window is another constraint. Culleton Creek is salmon spawning habitat, and work cannot be carried out in the stream outside of the fish window, which runs from August 1st to September 15th, which left insufficient time between funding approval and the fish windows to secure all approvals and complete project planning activities. The Water Sustainability Act process, BC Hydro, who is helping with the project management, applied for a Water Sustainability Act notification, but was advised that we actually need an authorization, which takes more time. So that's still in progress. The District of Squamish building permit, the bridge is technically located within the District of Squamish. So that building permit application is in progress. And First Nations engagement. So the ICIP program has quite a robust First Nations engagement process, and engagement with Squamish Nation was initiated in mid-July, and we're still in progress with that as well. So the shared cost agreement, which we entered into for the ICIP funding, provides 5 years to complete funded projects. So there are no major issues or risks with respect to the funding if the bridge replacement project is undertaken next year in the 2021 fish window. We plan to notify the community following this meeting, and BC Hydro has committed to updating the safe heavy vehicle crossing procedures for the existing bridge in order to ensure that residents are able to continue to receive propane deliveries this winter. And we'll be touching base with Superior Propane to ensure that they continue to send the appropriate size trucks through the winter months. And BC Hydro has and will continue to monitor the bridge abutments of the existing bridge on a monthly basis to ensure that the bridge remains safe for use. So we feel that constructing in next year's fish window will provide a better opportunity to ensure all funding requirements and provincial authorizations are fully completed. The new bridge deck, it's already been fabricated, and it will be stored at the BC Hydro Squamish substation through the winter until it is ready to be installed next year. And we'll continue to move forward with the land acquisition component of the project, which requires a legal survey and a statutory right-of-way. And Area D select funds have been set aside for this purpose. So that's my update. Thank you, Chair.
Graham, thank you very much. And I'm very pleased to hear at the end there that Area C select funds are paying for it.
Well, apologies for that. Area D select.
Well, I apologize to Russell. Don't apologize to me. But yeah. Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Could I have a motion to receive that report? Moved by Director Weave, seconded by Director Stoner. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Graham, thanks again. Very thorough update.
Welcome, Chair.
Okay. 10.6, request for decision, financial contribution agreements, Squamish Search and Rescue Society, Howe Sound Marine Rescue Society, and Whistler Search and Rescue Society. This is in my area, so I'll just comment on this and let you know how this has come about. In Area D, we had a tax requisition, we had a service for emergency services, and it was an old one, and it raised money that was paid to the District of Squamish so that they could provide emergency services for us. That became unnecessary when we hired our own emergency operations people, and so it lay dormant for a while. We reactivated. We went to the province and said, if we reactivate that, can we use the money instead of paying it to the District of Squamish? Can we pay it to originally it was just Squamish Search and Rescue, and we got approval to do that. So the tax requisition was put in place for the year 2020 in the amount of $19,000. Now, having done that, we had a request from the Howe Sound Marine Rescue Society. I kind of knew they existed, but they really hadn't had much contact with me. But they asked for a grant for something else, which we've actually given. And I thought, well, if we're raising tax money to support search and rescue, then some of that money should go to the Marine Search and Rescue. So that became the second thing. Then Kristen pointed out to me that the two communities of Black Tusk and Pinecrest pay into this service. The Squamish Search and Rescue only goes as far as Daisy Lake. And it is actually Whistler Search and Rescue, which covers the area down to Daisy Lake, which includes Pinecrest and Black Tusk. And so given that information, I decided that it made sense to put some portion of the money to Whistler. So hence the three things. And this year, totally arbitrary amounts that I just picked out. 14,000 for Squamish Search and Rescue, 3,000 for Howe Sound Marine Search and Rescue, and 2,000 for Whistler. That's for 2020. When we do the budget for 2021, I'll be talking to those three societies, and those numbers can be adjusted. So that's the process. That's how we've got to where we are right now. I have to say that I was really surprised when I phoned Whistler Search and Rescue, talked to their president, who had absolutely no idea, no inkling that this was happening. And I told him he was getting some money, and he went, "Oh, okay." It was quite underwhelming. You know, I felt like saying to him, well, listen, if you don't really want it, you needn't have it. But I'm sure somebody else within that society will be glad to get a couple of grand. So I need a motion to approve those two, well, those actions. So moved by Director DeMare, seconded by Director Race. Or did you have a comment, Director Race? Go ahead.
Thank you. So obviously I'm supporting this, but when I was reading this in the report, and given all the activity we've seen over the summer with tourism and so forth, I started to think, looking ahead, and it's not just Area D or the surrounding areas here, but it's pretty well throughout the whole regional district. And I'm not certain about the status in Lillooet about search and rescue, but certainly in the corridor here. And whether we somehow have to sort of come up with another model, and we find this, we haven't changed anything in Squamish either, but what we find with some of these grants is that just doing it on a year-by-year basis doesn't give the organization much time to, or any ability to plan for the money, because they never really know what's happening until it happens. And so I think, and I don't really have an answer, just some thoughts, that we might want to consider more on a region-wide basis, contributions to search and rescue. I mean, it's been becoming part, I think, of our core infrastructure for public safety, more and more so now. And so we might consider going forward with some kind of a plan to basically lock it into our respective budgets, figure out contributions. We need partnerships, obviously, with the municipalities because it covers their areas as well as the electoral areas. But get to a model where it's more treated as sort of a public safety, I don't know, public safety item on the budget that we just have to support, and give them a little bit of certainty going forward, knowing that they're now a line item on the budget and it's not subject to sort of discretionary decisions each year. So it's a bigger conversation, and not to delay it today, but I think going forward, we might want to sort of think about what's the other alternate, or what are other alternate funding models for these organizations. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, thank you. Let me just make it clear what this actually is. It's a service within a service center within Area D. So this is not just this year. This is set now, just as the contribution to the fire service, just as wastewater treatment, fresh, everything. So this is in place. They know that Squamish Search and Rescue are getting a minimum of $14,000 next year as well, and every year. And the same as for Marine, and the same for Whistler. The only change might be if at budget time we decide to increase the tax requisition and give them more. But they can plan now. They can budget for those amounts on an annual basis. But having said that, I don't disagree with your comments at all, that it's something we need to look at it on a regional basis. And yeah, I mean, I just happen to have a personal feeling that that's something it's important, and that's why I've reactivated that service to generate that money. But I think, yeah, we need to talk to the municipalities, and I've no idea what Whistler, what Pemberton, what Squamish do in terms of supporting search and rescue, and I'd certainly be happy to be part of that conversation.
Yeah, I can tell you in Squamish, it's just grants every year, but thank you.
I got Director,
Chair.
Whoever said chair, go ahead. I can't tell.
That's me, Russell.
Oh, right.
The village of Pemberton and Area C, we already fund our search and rescue. They are a line item in our PVIS budget, so you might want to look at that.
Okay, thank you. Director DeMette?
Yes, I've mentioned this in the past that Lillooet has road rescue only, and they're working at now, I do believe, at search and rescue also. So Area A has a tax requisition for with Lillooet on road rescue. So that's definitely something that I'm looking forward to if Lillooet does get into search and rescue, is having a satellite small search and rescue in the Goldbridge area, for sure. I really like what Doug Ray said earlier, that it should be a regional approach.
Agreed. So, Director Bush-Jones? You're on mute.
2 points. Just I was looking at you, Chair Rainbow, hoping that we could have a 15-minute break before 1 o'clock when the presentations start. I know that's a little out of order, but also I would like to heartily support what Director Ray suggested and Sal is supporting, and have a regional look at how we're contributing to search and rescue across the Squamish-Lillooet Regional District.
Maybe we could consider a second resolution then, but can we vote on the one that's on the floor right now? For 10.5, sure. I'd like to call question on that. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We have got 12:30 to 1 o'clock scheduled for a lunch break, and we're coming up pretty close to 12:30. Would you like to make a resolution that we direct staff to study a regional approach to, I don't know how you want to phrase the resolution, but. Director Race, would you like to? You're on mute.
Well, I'll take a stab at it. I guess the resolution would be to direct staff to bring back options to the board for a regional approach to search and rescue, and leave it at that. I don't want to get prescriptive.
Okay, thank you. Could I have someone second that? Seconded by Director Ford and by Director Birch-Jones. Is that sufficient? Just given the conversation we've had, or does anybody else want to add to that? Director Race?
Well, I'll just briefly say, I mean, I think this obviously would require partnerships with the municipalities. And so there is a bit of work to do here. I didn't want to put a time constraint on it or anything like that. And so I'm thinking that this is some kind of a next year project. Earlier if it could be, but I think it's more like a next year project. We've got to take a bit of a look at what's the provincial contribution, what should our contribution be, and start treating it more like a fire department or a police department and less like just some kind of a volunteer group.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'll call the question on that. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. It is pretty close to, I think we should probably break right now for lunch. Kristen, did you want to add something? Go ahead.
Thank you. It's just come to my attention that we have not been live streaming on our website. So Graham is looking into that, and we should have that fixed for 1 o'clock.
Do we have to go back and do it all again?
Not sure what happened there.
Graham?
Oh.
Yeah, it's up and running now. It was live streaming through the YouTube channel. Just some staff didn't have access to it on the website, and others said that they did. So I'm not sure if it was an IP address thing or what have you, but it is up and running now. I've just confirmed that.
Okay. Well, I'm going to break there here for lunch. We have a delegation at 1 o'clock. So can you make sure that you're back on just a couple of minutes before that? Okay, thank you very much. See you soon.
Chair?
Yes.
I need to duck out to a provincial cabinet minister meeting. Cabinet minister? A minister meeting. I'm like, what? So I would be, or is that a SLRD one or is that a Whistler one? Hold on.
The Whistler one.
Is it? We don't have any SLRD ones today?
Not in the middle of the day, no.
Okay. So that is at around 1:30, but I'll just, because you have those 15 minutes where you wait in the thing, I'll just put my phone, I'll stay in this meeting, but I'll just get rid of my face on this screen.
I did mean to say at the beginning of the meeting that we understood, Melanie made me aware that municipal people had to duck out from time to time to do these meetings. And so do whatever you have to do.
Sorry, just to, is Director Crompton still there? Oh, there you are. So how will we know? I don't know, you jumped around. How are we going to know that you have left the meeting? Can you let us, either, do you want to send me a text or interrupt or?
Sure. I mean, I think I'm going to stay in the meeting as much as I can because I don't have any responsibilities at my minister meeting aside from introducing Councillor Grills, who holds our tourism portfolio and will do the presentation. And so my intention then is to pay attention to our meeting, not the minister meeting. But I guess if I actually have to, it becomes clear that won't work, I'll send you an email that says I am out of the meeting. Does that work?
Yeah.
That'll work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Appreciate it. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Good luck.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Have fun storming the castle.
Graham, are we all here? I can't tell from my screen. Ah, Graham's not there. Hey, Doug. Oh, I guess we're too late now. All right. Who am I missing? Director Mack? There he is. Graham, are we live streamed at the moment? We are? Okay.
Yes, we are live stream, Chair.
And do we have that delegation ready for us? I think it's Shaw, Kirsten from Shaw, isn't it?
No, not yet. Kirsten is not in the waiting room. I will email him.
Okay. Well, I'll just take a minute. For those of you that have ever been to a real live UBCM convention, you'll have been past the Fortis booth, and Fortis always have some lovely colorful socks to give away. So last week I got a call from staff saying, Norman is on his way to Britannia Beach with a package for you from Fortis. Socks. And I show them to you now because I have 10 pairs, one for each of you. So at some point, you will be getting a pair of Fortis socks. Don't hold your breath though, because I'm not doing a tour of the region to deliver them. Well, ooh, 1 minute. I'll call this meeting to order in a moment. Any luck, Graham?
Not yet.
I don't think we've got any quick items to deal with that we could slot in here.
Chair, he just joined the waiting room, so I'm just admitting him now.
Oh, okay. Who is, Kirsten. Okay, I'll call this meeting back to order. We have a presentation from the Government Relations Director for Shaw Communications Incorporated. So welcome to Kirsten Enemark. Am I saying that right?
Thank you, Chair Rainbow. It's Kirsten Enemark.
Enemark. Oh, okay. Thank you.
All the long E's.
Long E's. Now, you have the floor.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, thank you for inviting me to your board meeting today. Really appreciate the opportunity to touch base and to speak a little bit of all that is new for Shaw, both in terms of our presence in British Columbia, as well as specifically within the Squamish-Lillooet Regional District, changes that we're making, investments that we're making in the SLRD. I did prepare a presentation. Not sure if everybody has a copy of it, or I wonder if I could share my screen. Just thought I would walk through just a bit of an overview of Shaw in general in British Columbia, as well as speak specifically to the high capacity fiber optic build that we're currently working on.
So are you going to share your screen?
I'm going to try.
You're going to try, okay. There we go.
Great.
Yeah, that's come up.
Okay, perfect. Well, just as a brief introduction, to summarize, for Shaw Communications, we are a leading Canadian connectivity company. So I think for most of you, you would know Shaw as a cable service provider there for your cable TV service. That's certainly our roots and certainly how Shaw started. But we have really moved to being that enhanced connectivity provider, looking at phone and wireless, both from Wi-Fi and from an LTE network services as well. And we've also offer services to consumers as well as to businesses. So we've really expanded not only our network, but the services that we're providing. Apart from giving an overview of Shaw, also wanted to let you know that in partnership with Bell Canada, we have been building a high capacity fiber optic cable from Whistler to Cache Creek, following the highway. And the purpose of this, what is called a transport fiber, this is really an open access network that allows other businesses and government agencies and communities to plug into the fiber to then support enhanced broadband services to their community. So I thought I would take some time as well to give you an update on that network build and where we're at and also where we're going. And so just briefly too, even though for Shaw, we are based, our headquarters are in Calgary, our home is in Alberta, but we're very much a BC company. Close to 50% of our network is actually in British Columbia. We have a very sizable employee base in BC. And we have close to 3 million individual subscribers. So that would include our Shaw satellite service, our Shaw cable service, phone, internet. And another notable piece about Shaw is that we have one of the most robust Wi-Fi networks in Canada. And over 100,000 hotspots in Western Canada. And part of that Wi-Fi network, we have partnered with a number of local governments to not only provide that Wi-Fi service for Shaw internet customers, but also have opened it up to the public as well. I thought I would also just take a moment to explain how the Shaw network is unique. It's different. Our Fiber Plus network is 99% fiber. It's fiber to what we call the node, which is really a piece of radio equipment. From there, it would then extend to individual houses or businesses through coaxial cable. And this is actually the network design of our cable company. This is the network that we've had since the beginning to deliver video products. But we've been able to use this network to deliver, of course, internet service, phone services, other digital services, and business services. We can do these upgrades without having to replace the network. It's something I wanted to highlight because as we launch new speeds, as we launch new services, we don't need to replace our infrastructure. The infrastructure is very much, we're able to do upgrades and changes and add different technologies to it to continually offer new services. So for example, in May of this year, we launched 1 gigabit speeds. Our top consumer speeds were 600 megabits per second. Really just over a few months, we were able to upgrade our entire network. Well, not our entire network, I would say 98% of our network here in British Columbia to 1 gig speeds, which means like a rural community like 100 Mile House now has the same level of speeds as downtown Vancouver. And then another announcement that we did make actually not too long ago, just over the summer, is our Shaw Mobile service. So this is really converging all of our network assets, our Fiber Plus network married with our Wi-Fi network, and again, our LTE wireless network, our Freedom Mobile network. We've brought it all together. So then as a Shaw internet customer, you can then add your Shaw Mobile phone for really just an incredible price. Our focus very much as a company right now is to be competitive in this market space, particularly with wireless. We understand that more and more Canadians are looking for affordable, high quality services. And Shaw Mobile, we're really positioning ourselves to be that fourth carrier in, that fourth wireless provider that is really offering choice and competition throughout our network footprint. So for example, with Shaw Mobile, if you're a Shaw Internet customer, you can either bring your own phone or acquire a phone through Shaw Mobile, and it will cost you nothing for text and talking. And if you want just 1 gigabyte of data, then that's $10 a month, and our unlimited is $45 a month. So it's been very interesting. We launched that over the summer. It's quite disruptive in terms of the wireless industry because, you know, for some of us now, it now means that you have a free cell phone if you're a Shaw Internet customer. So, you know, I think of my mother, quite frankly, who is very happy with text and talk. She's a Shaw Internet customer. She essentially now has a free mobile phone. And for my teenagers who, you know, 25 gigabytes of data is maybe just enough for them. You know, the maximum price really is $45 a month. And then for all of us in between, it can be anywhere between 0 to 45. So it's something that we've been very excited to launch, and very much our focus as a company right now. And then also just wanted to speak a little bit, of course, with COVID-19, you know, more and more we realize that having connectivity, all kinds of connectivity is so important. We think especially for rural communities, and recognizing that during COVID for Shaw, we did certain steps to make connecting easier. We did open up our Wi-Fi network to everybody, not just Shaw Internet customers, but really to the general public. We also donated to food centers in Canada. Online, we launched an education program for elementary and secondary school students. And, you know, for us, in terms of our operations, we very quickly mobilized our employees to working at home and doing self-install, which could be done in the house without having our technicians come into individual households. But certainly, you know, as we look at all of the products and services that Shaw has and where we're going, and certainly where we hope to grow our network, we certainly recognize that there are parts of British Columbia that are underserved. And we were very happy to apply to the federal Connect to Innovate and the provincial Connecting British Columbia programs, where in 2018, we received conditional approval funding to build a high capacity fiber optic line attached to BC Hydro poles for the most part, following the highway, really from Whistler all the way to Cache Creek, providing opportunity, you know, for us being able to upgrade certain parts of our network, as well as providing opportunities to expand connectivity to other rural areas. And, you know, on that note, I do have to say, we have really appreciated the support of the SLRD over the last few months. We realized that there were a number of consultations taking place with the federal government. The federal government was having consultations on rural connectivity, and we've certainly been advocating to government that having choice and competition is very important, and we certainly appreciated the comments forwarded by the SLRD in support of choice and competition with rural connectivity. Just wanted to point out that on this map, actually we'll just flip. This route, actually, we are building in partnership with Bell Canada. So when we look at that route, we've divided it into 3 sections. Section 1, Whistler to Mount Currie, has been led by Shaw. Section 2, Mount Currie to Lillooet, is being led by Bell. And then Shaw's picking it up again in Lillooet, carrying on building the high capacity fiber from Lillooet to Cache Creek. And when we look at the section 1 and 3, for most of that fiber design, we are attaching the fiber to BC Hydro distribution poles or jointly owned BC Hydro TELUS poles. For section 2, we are looking at a submarine fiber that will be going through Anderson Lake and Seaton as well. Which is actually really following the same line that TELUS has right now. So this is, we're kind of taking the path of least resistance, so to speak, and not wanting to disturb the land and using existing infrastructure wherever we can. The good news is section 1, Whistler to Mount Currie, we are just really a few weeks away from finishing that segment of the build. As we've been building that fiber, we've been upgrading services as we've gone. For example, of course, Pemberton has benefited from the new fiber. And when we finish this, this fiber connection later on in October, it'll be a benefit to the Lillooet Nation. So with, knowing that section 1 then will be complete, as I mentioned, in a few weeks, we then sort of turn to look at our section 3. Of course, Bell is continuing on looking at their build and design over the fall, and of course, our construction season sort of closes in late fall and then reopens again in early spring. So we're looking forward then of continuing our efforts in spring 2021. So for Shaw, again, our focus is from Lillooet to Cache Creek. And we're building this high capacity fiber in such a way where we add, they're called breakout points. And if you think about it, with this fiber, we want to design it in such a way that either now or in the future, there is the ability for either another internet service provider or a business or any sort of entity to have access to that fiber to then further deliver broadband services, which could be anything like cell service or last mile connectivity. This fiber design, this fiber line that we're building is called an open access network, meaning that to access this fiber, it's at a very affordable price. And it's really there then based to promote partnership. So for example, we have been in touch with Base Wireless, for example, letting them know that this fiber is going through and what opportunities is Base looking at to improve service and how can this fiber be a support to their efforts. LitNet would be another local ISP that is aware of this fiber build, and as they plan to expand service, they could use this fiber again to support their connectivity needs.
Kirsten, if I can just interrupt you, we're getting a little tight on time, so can I ask you to just finish off, please?
Yes, thank you. Also, just as a brief update, part of this fiber optic upgrade we will see improved Shaw services in Lillooet, as well as we are proposing to expand service in Lillooet, particularly on reserve to Ticlet and to Cayuse Creek or Secawash, connecting approximately 160 households and businesses as well. So just to very briefly to say that we do appreciate, again, the support that we've received from the SLRD, and we certainly do recognize the importance of connectivity, not only that you have service, but that it be affordable and that there's choice and competition. As we continue to build this network, we think there's opportunities to expand service, but also have another carrier, another provider there to provide you backup services, which again, just adds to greater resiliency and dependency on broadband services.
Great. Well, thank you very much. So we've got some interesting things happening there. We could just spend a couple of minutes on questions if anybody has a question for Kirsten. And I can't see anybody right now because could you stop sharing the screen, Kirsten? So yeah, thank you. Director Birch-Jones.
Just want to make sure. Thank you very much, Kirsten. And Did I hear you right that you're going to be sort of paralleling with TELUS and submarine as in under the lake with Anderson and Seton Lake and the connection up to Lillooet?
So just as the TELUS line is attached to the distribution poles, and TELUS also has a submarine to the lakes, we're following a very similar path.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay, well, Kirsten, again, thanks very much for the presentation. That's very interesting. And we've got your presentation, at least I think, yes, I've got it. So if we have any questions at a later date, we know how to reach you.
Yeah, please don't ever hesitate to reach out if you're looking for an update later on or where things are standing, or, you know, if they're in your areas, if you know that there's certain areas that definitely need connectivity, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know so that we're aware and doing all that we can.
Does this cable go, how does it get to Whistler? Does it come up from Vancouver?
Yeah, so we already have a fiber line from Vancouver to Whistler, which is why Squamish and Whistler have all of the Shaw services. They do have gigabyte speeds. However, it's this new cable line will then be improving service to, again, that Mount Currie, Lillooet, and then further on to Cache Creek.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And we'll have to say goodbye to you there.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Graham, do we have the Climate Action Group in the waiting room?
Yes, we do, Chair. I'm minuting them now.
Okay. So I have Jonah and, I don't have any names on this. Anne, there we go, and Jonah. Welcome. An interesting letter you sent us, which resulted in this invitation. So if you'd like to, and I don't know if you were watching the meeting earlier, but we had a whole presentation on climate action from our staff. So I'll turn it over to you, and you just tell us what you're doing.
Great, thank you. As noted, I am Anne McCaig. And I'm sorry I missed the climate action or the climate series you presented. Maybe I'll be able to see it at a later date through the magic of technology.
Yeah, you certainly can do that.
Great.
It will be posted on our website. So
great, thank you. So thank you. Thank you for hearing our petition. I'm Anne McCaig, a member of ACT, Acting on Climate Together. We describe ourselves as an informal group of humans working locally to identify and carry out climate-friendly actions and adaptations now. Our goals are to build connections, share information, heal damage, and adapt to change. We don't have any political affiliations, but we are increasingly disenchanted with the political process at the federal and provincial level, which does not seem to be making headway with the climate crisis. For many of us, working on climate-friendly initiatives helps us deal with our anxiety about the climate crisis. It would be fair to say that we think globally while acting locally. We are a diverse group, although we skew old and white. We are actively wanting to engage First Nations and youth. Through a lengthy process, we settled on 4 working topics: transportation, food security, energy efficiency, and biodiversity/restoration. We have roughly 100 members, though typically about 20 show up to our monthly meetings, pre-COVID that is. At our meetings, we learn and share, inviting members to introduce scientifically based topics. We have been active at Plaid Friday and CD Sunday in Lillooet to raise local awareness and recruit members. We hosted a climate action teen series at the local youth center and sponsored a series of workshops where boomerang bags, that's recyclable bags, were made. We are currently working on a submission to the District of Lillooet in collaboration with other like-minded community groups to provide a climate and human health lens to the official community plan. We want to do something, and we want to help our community leaders be proactive and farsighted. And that's over to you, Jonah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Anne. Like Anne said, my name is Jonah Timms, and I've had the pleasure of meeting a few of you virtually and in person and over the phone. So hello. So first of all, I'd like to say that the SLRD did a really good job of creating the integrated sustainability plan. But we did notice that the annual reporting took place up until about 2015, and then at least we weren't able to find any reporting out since then. So we would love to see that a monitoring report be done every 3 to 5 years at least, so that we can be aware of how things are going and where improvements need to be made. So like I said, staff should have a solid grasp of the plan and what's going on within that plan and its vision, its goals, objectives, so that staff know what's going on, and then those staff can use that vision and the plan and the goals to guide decision making throughout the district, including the board. And we'd also like to say, a big kudos to the SLRD for achieving the carbon neutrality recognition back in 2018. So thank you for that. But ACT would like to formally request the SLRD declare a climate emergency similar to what's been done by other regional districts in the province, such as the Capital Regional District. A growing list of cities, regions, and nations have joined an international movement to declare a state of emergency regarding the climate crisis. And in doing so, they're promising to accelerate climate action efforts in the hopes of achieving net zero carbon emissions. So since 2016, over 1,400 local governments in 28 countries have made climate emergency declarations. And often, when I hear the term climate emergency, emergency means different things to different people. So I looked up a good way to use the term emergency, and it's to assign the topic of climate change and the climate crisis that we're living in, to assign the priority to the topic and to generate urgency behind our actions and our way of thinking about it. Because the impacts of climate change are already being felt across the globe and locally here as well. The smoke that we're facing in Lillooet, and I'm sure it's all over the province, is likely a reaction to climate change in a different jurisdiction. So we need to work together locally and globally to continue to intensify our actions and affect change throughout the region. And as an organization, the SLRD has a leadership role to play when it comes to climate action. The SLRD is a signatory to the BC Climate Action Charter. So we would like to request the SLRD to use a climate lens for board decision-making that demonstrates how decisions align with greenhouse gas reduction targets, climate action objectives, and your strategic priorities. Yeah, I think that's everything from me. Anne, do you have anything else to add? No, you're muted.
It's usually better when I'm muted. I think that's a pretty clear request.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. So I'd like to put it out to everybody else. If you have any questions or concerns or anything like that, please ask them. I see Vivian with her hand up, but I'm not sure if there's a chair at this meeting.
I'm sorry, I'm mute. I'm talking away here. Nobody can hear me. Jonah and Anne, thank you very much. Appreciate your presentation. And I would invite you to look at the presentation that our staff made this morning. I think you'll you'll see that we are taking this seriously. One of the reasons you're here now is because what you are doing seems to align with what we would like to do. And I noticed that one of your requests was that you had representation from the SLRD at your meetings. I've talked to our CAO about this. We really don't have staff availability right now to do that, but I would sort of throw that out to Director Birch-Jones and Director Weeb and Director Demare as people in that northern area, if one of them may or more may be interested in joining you. But I'll leave them, you to contact them or them to contact you at a later date. So anybody, any other director have any comments or questions for Jonah and Anne? Director Birch-Jones.
Thank you very much, both of you, for making the time to come and present today, but more importantly, for the ongoing work that you and the group are doing. And Chair Rainbow, you wouldn't know, but I do attend, as far as I can, the ACT meetings in Lillooet, and I'm pretty impressed with what they're doing and trying to do. I completely agree. We are in a climate emergency. I'm pleased that we were able to look at the plan today. And I'm sorry you guys didn't actually see that part of the meeting, but I'll make sure that that presentation comes to the group. So it would be, I think, well worth discussing at ACT. And yeah, I'll stop there. Just, I really wanted to say thank you. Kudos to you. Keep going.
Thank you.
Well, Director Birch-Jones, I think clearly what ACT is doing in your area does sort of align with our goals. It does support what we will be doing or are doing. And so we will rely on you at this time to make sure that you sort of bring that information to us, and if we need to send any information to ACT, that it will go through you. So, and I'll just say again that this whole meeting will be archived on our accessible through our website, so you can access it that way. Relatively easy to do. Okay, where are we? 1:30. Any other comments? Yes, I'm sorry, Director Stoner.
Thank you. And thanks so much for the presentation. I do think it is really critical. I couldn't agree more that we are in a climate emergency. I am a director from the District of Squamish, a municipality that has declared a climate emergency within the Squamish-Lillooet Regional District. And I couldn't agree more with your definition, Jonah, of what emergency is. It's about assigning priority to the topic and creating urgency to address it. And that is what's needed in the climate realm in this day and age. I am hesitant to put forward a resolution right now to declare a climate emergency. And I just want to give context as to why that is. And I think it's really important when we put forward a resolution that it comes hand in hand with clear follow-ups and motions and direction to staff on what that's going to look like. So the consideration of whether we have representation from the board directly with your community organization is one that I think could be considered by this board, if that's something that Director Birch-Jones did want to do and act as a direct connection there and have an actual appointment from the board to do that. So I think that those are things that I'm happy to take away and start to consider, and maybe at a future meeting bring forward a more comprehensive resolution that would both declare a climate emergency and then also clearly state what actions we think that this board can and should reasonably be taking to address that. So I just wanted to mention that I'm happy to give that a little bit more thought, but provide some context as to why I'm not moving that immediately.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, in that case, I'll say thank you very much again, Jonah and Anne. It was a pleasure to meet you. Good luck with your work. I think it's commendable what you're doing. And again, thanks for being here this afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Melanie, do we have Sarah available? I know she was here earlier.
Yeah, there is available.
Yeah, there she is. So Sarah and Kim. Okay, let's move to 10.7, request for decision, Community Emergency Preparedness Fund, Structural Flood Mitigation Funding Opportunity. Sarah, let's hear from you. Where are you?
Hello. I was just
there you are. Hi.
Grappling with the technology. So structural flood mitigation. So this year we are again proposing to focus the allocation of that funding on the Pemberton Valley flood risk through the cooperative approach with the Pemberton Valley Emergency Management Committee. Rather than a single shot of $750,000 in terms of the funding opportunity, this gives us a combined $2.2 million potentially to be awarded for use to mitigate that considerable flood hazard that exists in the Pemberton Valley.
And Sarah, am I correct in thinking that this is the group that we spoke about recently, which involves the village of Pemberton, the SLRD, and the what nation?
Yes, and the Pemberton Valley Diking District is the other partner in that.
Oh, and the other partner as well, yeah. So I just like to note that. I think that's that kind of degree of cooperation between those four groups within that one area. I think that's really great. So I'd like to, I don't know who, I'm going to assume you were responsible for pulling that together, Sarah.
It was very much a joint effort, that one, of the four jurisdictions.
Yeah, so well done on that. Now, having said that, we need a motion. I'm looking through this. Is there any reason we can't do that all in one lump? Four things?
I'll move the full motion.
You'll move the full motion. Thank you, Director Richmond, seconded by somebody, Director DeMeyer. Okay, any questions for Sarah? Any comments? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Great, thank you. So now we go on to 10.8, Information Report, Modernizing BC's Emergency Management Legislation Update. Sarah, over to you.
Okay, well, this was a fairly short report, further to the submission that we made back in January on the original discussion paper that the province released around their initial ideas and outlining new emergency management legislation for BC. We made a detailed submission on a number of points. We coordinated that submission with the submissions that were being put through our member municipalities, so we had similar messaging, and also took a fairly broad survey of the submissions that other jurisdictions were putting in as well. So after a bit of a delay due to COVID, the province released this report, what we heard, as in what they heard from those submissions. And you know, it is a summary of the submissions received, and certainly it does take note of some of the points that we raised. It doesn't provide much detail really on some of the other points. It's somewhat vague language, like we're fleshing out that proposition. You know, we've heard what you said, we're fleshing out this, but they're not really saying in what way they might be fleshing it out or any other details. So given that it's a very short submission period and that it would have needed to come before the board, and that we don't have really a great deal to grasp on in terms of our outstanding points of concern, I'm not proposing an additional submission on this one. And the intention now by the province is to introduce this legislation in the spring of 2021.
The motion to receive that report from Sarah, moved by Dr. Richmond, second by Director Ford. All in favour? Opposed? Motion carries. And 10.9. This is you again, Sarah.
It is.
Request for decision, community resilience investment grant funding opportunity 2021.
So another funding opportunity. This is the funding that we typically apply for fire smart initiatives in the community. There is a second stream that's since the CRI's inception about 3 funding rounds ago. The second stream has been of relatively little use to us, to put it frankly, because it applies to mainly SLRD park land, and we don't have too much of that. Typically, our fuel mitigation work is focused on Crown land, and that has been less successful since the demise of the SWIPE funding program. But this year, there are a couple of very notable things about the CRI funding rounds. One is that regional districts can now apply for up to $50,000 per electoral area for fire smart projects, eligible fire smart projects, which we have a fairly short window to apply, to kind of gather our ideas and letters of support and consultation for this year. But assuming that that rolls out in future years, that's a really exciting opportunity to put together quite a substantial community fire smart program per electoral area, and in coordination with the member municipalities as well. 50,000 per electoral area, 200,000 potentially across the 4 electoral areas. I personally find that idea quite exciting, and I'm looking forward to discussing that more with our communities and with the directors as well. I'm also in touch with the BC Wildfire Service and Flynn Road representatives to talk about that further as well. The second thing that's noticeable is that in terms of wildfire, wildland, forest fuel mitigation work on Crown land, the process for that has gone through a few iterations since the SWIPE funding has been retired, and the province is trying something new this year. They're looking for more of a proposal from jurisdictions in coordination with the Flynn Row staff. So we're working with them. And it's not an application form per se. They're looking for a proposal, which they will then put forward in their internal provincial funding round. And if essentially, if they are successful in that lobbying, then we will see fuel mitigation prescriptions and treatments developed in line with our priorities that are identified in our electoral area community wildfire prevention plans. We have a little longer to October 31st to get those applications together. And we do have the priority areas identified in our CWPPs, which are up to date. So again, I'm hopeful that we're going to see progress again on fuel mitigation on Crown land.
Great. Thank you. Any questions for Sarah? Director DeMere.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
So the 2 proposals that we talked about and having communications with Cascades Forest District, are they going to be part? They could be part of that fuel mitigation program. Okay.
Yeah. Director DeMere, I would. I'm following up, but my proposal to the Cascades Resource District would be that we might get going on some of those projects with our funding so that they could move directly on to treatment in the next funding round. I will get their feedback on that.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Birch-Jones.
Thank you, Chair Rainbow. I'm really happy with the fuel mitigation work that you've been able to get done that I've seen, and I thank you for that. May I move these 3 resolutions as written?
Yep, and I just was checking. I don't see anybody else wanting to comment right now, so please do. I think we can again do it as one resolution. So moved by Director Birch-Jones, the 3 that's as printed, seconded by Director DeMere. Any further questions or comment? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Great, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you, Chair.
I'll be talking to you later this week.
Sounds ominous.
Yes, it does. It's very ominous. Where did we put that thing we pulled out of the consent agenda? Right here?
It's next. Yeah.
It's next. Okay. Someone remind me what it is.
It is item
7.2.
7.2.1, isn't it?
Correct.
No, 7.2.1. Information report, community works, gas tax funds. Go ahead, Director Birch-Jones.
I just think this might have come out of me stumbling around trying to understand the community works gas tax funds. I'm extremely pleased that we were able to access some of those for the solar panels, and I have lots more ideas. I'm not sure that we need to have the wording that staff develop an application form. How about just, you know, guidelines? Because we're just talking about an internal document, right? So I was just changing the wording.
When we apply, if you want to apply to Suzanne to use gas tax funds, she needs a certain amount of information. It would be much easier if she had a form where that information could just be formatted consistently from one application to the next, rather than her just getting an email from a director saying, hey, can I use funds for this purpose? I know that's easy.
You know, so just so she answers one question and then I go away and I come back with another question.
Exactly.
And so
I
on.
think
Okay.
if she
All right. Okay,
form,
then just this is fine then the way it is. Then let me move.
Thank you. So you're going to move acceptance of that?
Yes, I am.
Moved Director Birch-Jones, seconded by Director Weeb. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Great. Okay. What are we on to now? Let's see. Moving along. Chair's verbal report. I've already shared the SOX with you. Meeting times, that question was raised earlier on. When I first got the agenda and saw that we were starting at 10:30, I called Kristen and I said, hey, I thought we'd agreed to start at 9. Can't we do that? And she reminded me that the motion that we passed in July to change our procedures was specific to the August meeting. It wasn't a blanket motion. So what we need to do, if indeed we want to start our meetings while we're still doing electronic meetings, if we want to start them at 9 o'clock, then we need a resolution today to that effect, but it needs to be worded in such a way that it will apply to all board meetings and all, well, committee of the whole already starts at 9. It applies to all board meetings as long as we're running them in this virtual manner. So the first question is, do you want to start at 9? And if the answer is yes, I see people nodding, then I need a resolution, please. Moved by Director Ford, seconded by Director Race. Any comments or questions? Director Birch-Jones?
We seem to get through the business in good time. I like starting at 10:30 for personal reasons, but I also want to make sure that when we start meeting again in person, we still have that start time to allow for travel.
Yeah, the motion directly concerns electronic meetings, virtual meetings. And when it was first proposed, the comment was made, we're not having to travel. So therefore, because normally most of us are on the road by 9 o'clock or earlier to get to a 10:30 meeting in Pemberton. So yes, this only applies to electronic meetings. And as soon as they finish, then we're done. We're back to the normal time. Director Ford.
Thank you, Chair. Does this present any challenges for staff as far as are there meetings prior to the board meeting that need to be considered, or is this of interest to the staff as well?
Melanie or Kristen, would you like to comment on that?
Thank you, Chair Rainbow. I think Kristen, or if you could talk to that, because you've got the historical perspective on.
Sure, thank you. This would fit in with our schedules, the earlier start time.
It actually gives us a bit more flexibility as well. Yes, we've got through pretty quickly. We're caught up to the schedule that Kristen gave me for today. That won't necessarily always be true, though. Okay, any other comments or questions? We'll call the question on this. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, very good. Where are we at? We're at 1:47 and we're supposed to be at 2:05. See, we're ahead of time. So let's just go around the region and share what's happening or what has happened. It hasn't been very long since the last meeting, but I'm sure there's something of interest. Where did I start last time? I started up in the north, didn't I? So didn't I? Yes. So let's start with Squamish this time. Doug, you should defer to Director Stoner.
I was just going to say, Jen's going to deliver the report for Squamish today.
Yeah. Well, one of you, don't be shy.
I can jump in. It's obviously been a little bit of a crazy week here. Started off on Monday with waking up at 6:45 with an announcement that the gondola cable had been cut for a second time, which is, if nothing else, a little bit unnerving. Amazing resilience within both that company and our community as a whole, though. The spokespeople for the gondola were quickly on the radio and committing to rebuild. They had already put an order in for the cable, from what I understand. So they are determined to build back. But it obviously has had significant impacts on our community broadly. And in a coincidental but timely manner, we also had an update from Squamish Tourism scheduled as a delegation to the District of Squamish Council yesterday. And it really put into kind of context the general impact that COVID has had on our tourism economy, and that is going to be compounded as we go into the fall and the loss of one of our core attractions in Squamish. Some interesting numbers that have come out of that presentation from Squamish Tourism. 1 in 3 businesses here in Squamish that are tourism dependent are unsure about their status beyond the summer of 2020. 56% of tourism businesses in Squamish are not operating at a profit at this point. So if we look kind of into what we are seeing as a changing weather, the end of our kind of high season, there's definitely a fair bit of concern in our community and looking for alternative solutions to really try and encourage both our community to support our local businesses, as well as perhaps start some sort of campaign around how to enjoy and become a tourist in your own province in a responsible and effective manner. So I think that's been pretty top of mind for our community in the last few days. But Doug, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add.
Hey, thank you. Moving up the road, we come to Whistler.
No, I was, okay, I'll go then. So last night was an exciting night on a number of fronts for the RMOW. We brought a rezoning of the next phase of Cheakamus Crossing, which is an enormous piece. It'll nearly double the existing neighborhood at build out. And the first step of it is going to be 100 units of affordable rental or ownership. We're still making that decision, but it's moving forward quickly now, which is exciting. There's been so much work done to get us to this point. It's exciting to see shovels going in the ground, and it'll be an enormous move for housing in our community, and it's one that I think all of us are excited about. We also saw some presentation of the Sea to Sky Geopark, UNESCO Geopark, which is something we're moving forward. And if you think about the Canadian Rockies and all of the interpretive tourism experiences that you can have there, that's something that we really don't have in the same way. And this would move us in that direction towards understanding the land, understanding the geological features, and allowing tourism to happen in a way that might make more sense in sort of this post-COVID world. We're slowing down a lot as a community as a result of summer ending. And that's a challenge for businesses. It was a really hard hit to our community, the decision that Dr. Henry made around the 10 p.m. Liquor sales decision. It'll be a challenge, and we're up for it. We'll take it on, but it's certainly going to make a situation that's hard now even more so. I will also mention that back to school has been interesting here. I'm sure it's been the same for all of you. We've got challenges that are, all the challenges in our lives all seem to be related to COVID now, but children walking distances from schools are really a challenge for us now. We've sort of changed the borders about which kids go where, which has created problems in some schools and not others. But we had the school district present to us yesterday, and I was impressed by their desire to find ways to manage in this new world. It's not going to be easy this summer, but like us, as far as it relates to food and beverage, it seems like the school district is focused on being nimble and finding solutions to the problems that we face as a community. So I will leave a couple items for Councillor Ford. Pass it to Councillor Ford.
Thank you.
I don't have a whole lot to add except transit. As many of you know, BC Transit and TransLink launched a few weeks ago mandatory masks on board. And from what I can see, it seems to be pretty successful. And we are also seeing a lot of mask wearing through the village. So even though it's an outside space, as you walk around the village, it is difficult to physical distance in many areas of the village. And so we are encouraging with some pretty encouraging signage around and really just leading by example in all of our stores and restaurants to please wear a mask around the village. And, really it's not about the mask wearing, but people tend to exhibit, I will manage my 6 feet if I'm wearing a mask, as will others. And so that is pretty hopeful. Yeah, I think Mayor Crompton covered most of everything that I was going to share as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ford. Pemberton.
Thanks. Like the others have said, the fall off since Labor Day in business has been very, very steep, dropped off a cliff. It was a decent summer for many businesses despite challenges, but I've never seen it decline like that so quickly. So a lot of trepidation about the fall and the winter to come for small businesses for sure. Not a ton to report since our last meeting. Some kind of crappy, shocking news to me was that we didn't get a childcare space grant that we had applied for, and that we've been working with UBCM for a while. We just found out on Friday that we did not get it. We're welcome to reapply. Our per child cost is too high, and they feel the dollars can be spread out better, and that we'd have to bring the cost down. As much as I made the plea that you need to understand development costs here in the Sea to Sky corridor. It's a new space. We provided the land for it, so it's not even a land cost, it's just the development costs. We don't have buildings like a lot of bigger municipalities or cities that can repurpose spaces and make those kind of numbers work. So I've got a meeting with the Minister for Childcare on tomorrow morning. So we're gonna have a really nice conversation. So I was shocked. In Pemberton, we have the provincial average is 18.4 spaces available per 100 kids. In Pemberton, we're under 12. And so I was shocked that we didn't get it. And I know there's bigger projects that have been approved in Vancouver that are well over the $40,000 per child space number. So that one was disappointing. On a more positive note, we've formed a good partnership with Sea to Sky Community Services. I've been meeting with them regularly. They need new and bigger space in Pemberton and recognize our need for some sort of employee style and affordable housing. So we're forming a partnership and going to the province for some funding on that to see if we can put a little affordable employee housing and community service building together. So that will hopefully have a more positive outcome. And I feel pretty good about it. And the folks we're working with, a few of you probably know them, great people, very motivated, and we're hitting it hard, so it should be good. And with that, the only other thing I would say is I'm keeping an eye on the forecast, because as of yesterday, they're forecasting 250 millimeters of rain in the Pemberton Valley early next week in 2 days. 175 one day, 75 the next. So hopefully that forecast comes down, but Melanie, I'm sure Sarah's already been on alert on that one, but if we get anything close to that, we'll be talking, all of us. So we'll keep an eye on that. And that's it for Pemberton.
That will wash the smoke away though, won't it?
Oh, it will. It'll wash a lot more than the smoke away.
Yeah. Pemberton. Let's stick with the municipalities. Lillooet.
Lillooet, you had to come to Lillooet.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm really glad I'm not the mayor in Pemberton. No, this is a big enough job. We're carrying it. There's not too much to really put out there, I guess. We're carrying on with our OCP. We're looking for, I think they put an ad in the paper for ambassadors so that we can do little pop-up kiosks throughout the community and surrounding areas to get input from anybody who's possibly not on internet or didn't make the farmers market. And that's a nice new way of doing it. What else is going on here? Businesses are slow, just like everywhere else. Smoke is not too bad today. A couple of days ago, it was horrendous. Our Tim Hortons will be open later today or first thing in the morning. They passed all their inspections. Woo! I was hoping it was open this morning. I was going to have a cup of coffee sitting here. And other than that, Mayor Bussey, council, and staff would like to put an invite out to Melanie when things get back to normal and she has some time to come and visit us so that everyone can put a face to the name. And that's about it for Lillooet.
Great, thank you very much, Bob. So now we'll skip through the rural areas now, starting with A. Director to Mayor.
I think this meeting's topic is going to be wildlife. We've had a number of incidents in our area and surrounding areas. We had a grizzly bear attack in the Sochigoton Mountain Park. The fellow was doing fine, but he had to get helicoptered out. We had a cougar attack at Marshall Lake area on a 10-year-old boy. And that young man is also doing well. Of course, there were two families that were on a small hike just a little bit north of Marshall Lake, and and that's when the boy got attacked. We've had a grizzly sow with 3 cubs down in the flats of Carpenter Reservoir, right by Goldbridge. We've had a sow and a cub in the Gun Lake area. We've also had a big boar in the Gun Lake area. We put signs up in those areas, just warning people that there are grizzlies around. There was a big boar in the Braylorn area and about a 3-year-old in the Braylorn area. So we've had our round of grizzly bears in our area, and in the North Creek, just in the Lillooet River FSR area, there was another grizzly attack there. Again, another sow with a cub. And in the Lillooet area, there was a black bear attack on another person up in the mountains there, coming our way. So it's been quite the year. Just the whole year's been just different for sure. But in the last while, it's been the wildlife. But we do have a bear working group, and we also have a BC Wild Safe coordinator here that is very active. So we had a session at the Hailmore Heritage site on the long weekend. It was a Saturday. It was a 4-hour session. We had a full-on COVID safety plan for it. And we had 6 stations with all to do with wildlife, except for one that was a book signing. So it was very well attended. There was only a maximum of 20 people at a time that were let in, and it went very well. So that's what the main topic for this time was wildlife. And these grizzly bears are still around. They haven't gone away yet. They're still all feeding to get fattened up. You know, all the different fruits and vegetables that are around right now in Goldbridge. So we're working on a gleaning program for Goldbridge, and lots of berries around. There's still lots of berries. So that's it for today.
Thank you. Area B, Dr. Birch-Jones.
Thank you, Chair Rainbow. Just following up on Sal's comments, I'm wondering if wildlife are just getting a little bit fed up with some of the country, like the crowding in the back country, because we just have all these people that are just pushing it and pushing it. We've had a couple of closures. Sequowash decided to close the Texas Creek Forest Service Road, grizzly bear rearing habitat, and a lot of people, mainly from the lower mainland, just wanting to go up and drive their vehicles around up there. And it got pretty tense, but certainly while there's been some damage and breakage to the gate, it's been repaired again, it's closed. I'm glad, because those grizzlies are there. That's a threatened population. They'll be protected there, and local support is pretty good on that. I'm actually, Area B is on the agenda for tomorrow, so should I just wait until?
Sure.
Okay.
Save it for the big show tomorrow.
All righty, thank you.
Okay. Area C, Russell Mack.
Well, we're waiting for the smoke to all go away, obviously, as is everybody else. The wildlife issues, we've got the same issues over in our area here. We had a grizzly attack last week. We've got a grizzly here by the Ponderosa subdivision on Anderson Lake. But, you know, like, I've been around all these mountains a lot, and there's a lot more bears around than people give anybody credit for. I mean, we've got Steve Rochetta, the biologist. You know, I don't think they even have a clue as to how many bears are actually out there. And there's a lot more than there is, and it's showing itself now. But we're getting some road work done, and on a happy note, I guess, one of our local residents actually won the P&E home, which is kind of neat when you actually know the person that won it. And yeah, so we'll leave it that on a high note. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Mack. Yeah, I said to Director Richmond, that's a good way to get an affordable housing program. Have somebody buy a ticket for $20 and win a big house. Area D, we have a lot of wildlife problems as well. The seagulls are making so much noise down by the beach. It's hard to have a conversation. And there's a flock of geese that's pooping over the golf course, and that's a real concern for us. Other than that, nothing too much exciting going on in Area D, except, as you know, I've been complaining for 6 months now about the problems in the Upper Squamish Valley. With the idea of staycations and with the power of social media, the visitations into that valley have doubled, and there just aren't facilities to deal. There weren't facilities to deal with the original volume. There's certainly nothing to deal with the current volumes. So we are in cooperation with MLA Study and the RCMP. And I hope the District of Squamish having a meeting in October, and we're going to try to come up with some kind of an action plan to make some suggestions to the province as to what can be done there. And quite frankly, it's going to take money. We need some capital expenditures on camping areas and toilets and things like that. And we need some long-term funding for staff, for people to clear up the garbage, to monitor what is happening in those camping areas. So that you can expect to hear more of that later. And with that, I will sign off as well. So thank you very much. And we'll move ahead now. Now, 11.2, 12.1, 12.2. Sal, do you want to deal with that, all three things, and before we go ahead?
Yes, I'll want to declare a conflict of interest for all three items. And it's due to my wife, Debbie Demare, and my daughter, Carrie Demare, being involved with the BRVCA.
Okay, thank you, Sal. So you're going to the waiting room and we'll call you back later. Great, so 11.2, Northern Development Initiative Trust, Director Demare obviously can't speak to it. Director Birch-Jones, do you? Go ahead.
Are we looking at 12.1? I apologize.
No, 11.2.
Oh, I'm sorry, the facade improvement, yes. Okay, so the background that was provided, that's our brilliant grant writer, Lori Reimer, that put that together for Sal and I. And she is funded through Northern Development Initiative Trust, and that's a program that the Bridge River Valley Community Association started a couple of years ago in Area B. I just kind of piggybacked onto it, and I'm so glad that we did. So this won't be of interest to anybody who's not in the northern area. So could I please move that we apply for the 2021 NDIT Business Facade Improvement Program by the October 30th, 2020 deadline date?
Good. Can I have someone second that, please? Seconded, Director Weeb. Anybody got any questions for Vivian? Looks like a good initiative, Vivian. Congratulations.
Yep.
I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. 12.1, request for funding. Rivka Braylorn Pioneer Mounds Building and the Braylorn Pioneer Museum. Director Birch-Jones?
I'm happy to move that.
Okay, thank you. I have a seconder, please. Seconded, Director Weeb. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Request for a letter of support for application to investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, Community Culture and Recreation Infrastructure.
Sorry, Chair Rainbow, to interrupt.
No, please.
12.1 was from, where was that funding from?
Good question. So, yeah, where's that from, Director Jones? I'm sorry, that's not in there. You're on mute.
Apologies. It's grant and aid. It's select funds.
From?
Area A. Now, they're also, in the application, it says it's our understanding this funding request would be eligible under the gas tax community works fund. So,
Okay, so it's from Area A select, unless
for the 12,500.
Okay. Is that what you needed, Kristen?
Yes, so Area A select, and there's no alternative funding. Or
Kristen, do I have that right? I'm not completely confident of this.
Melanie, was this one you were dealing with on Friday morning? This was one that came in at Friday morning and there was some back and forth there. I can't recall.
I think Suzanne said it didn't qualify for the gas tax. And so we were looking at alternative funding.
Yeah. So it clearly says grant and aid of up to 12,500 right at the first paragraph. So that must be what Sal was forced to use.
Yeah, I assumed it was select funds, but it doesn't actually specify select. It just says a grant and aid.
I'm just confused that we're looking at it at the board versus the EAD.
Well, yeah, we wouldn't be dealing with select funds at the board table, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay, maybe we should pull this and refer it to EAD. How do I do that? Procedurally, how do I remove that resolution? And can you help me with that, Melanie? Or we could leave the resolution in place and then refer it to EAD for funding.
We do have a resolution that doesn't identify the source of funding though, so we may want to rescind that resolution. Or we'll have to do something with it to clarify where those funds are coming from.
Can we not leave the resolution as is and now have another one to refer it to EAD for the source of funding? Would that work? The effect
except for that, if it's coming from select funds, those are delegated authority to the EAD. So I'm not sure why there would be a board resolution.
Okay, maybe it's easier. Let's just rescind that resolution and then refer the whole thing to EAD.
So I just found the email from Suzanne and she recommended PELT, if that's the same.
Oh, great. Then that would make sense. That would make perfect sense then. That's why it's at the board.
My suggestion is to cover the rest of this request with Northern PELT funds.
Excellent. So then let's rescind that, or do we need to rescind it or do we just need to?
We need a second resolution then to specify where the funds are coming from.
Yes.
So move that, Vivian.
Okay, I'll move the Bridge River Valley Community Association be funded up to $12,500 from, and this will be Area A, payment in lieu of taxes funding to move forward with the restoration of the Braylorn Pioneer Mines building.
You can just refer to the motion we've passed. And so this motion just identifies that the funding is coming from PILT funds, which has to come to the board. Okay.
Yep. Good.
So, moved Director Birch-Jones, seconded by Director Wiebe. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Kristen, thank you for picking that up, Kristen. Appreciate that. And now we'll move to the next one, which is 12.2. Yes? Yes.
This is just for a letter of support, so I'm on more solid ground.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to move that as written, a letter of support for its application.
Okay, seconded by Director Weeb. Any questions or comments on that? Okay, call to question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 12.3, Pemberton Wildlife Association shooting range property tax exemption. Director Mack, is this something to do with you?
I'll move that.
Seconded by Director Weeb. Any comments or questions for Director Race?
Yeah, thanks. And I historically have not supported this and won't be again this year. And it's the same approach I bring to some of these grants in Squamish, where we've stopped giving them to sports clubs like the yacht club or the flying club and so forth, and concentrated them more on charitable activities. And so I'll take the same approach here and not support this.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? I see one opposed. I just see one opposed. So Director Race is opposed. Motion carries. 12.4, Lower Mainland Local Government Association new appointee. We received a letter from the president of the Local Government Association, Lower Mainland Local Government Association, I beg your pardon, who's sitting with us right now, requesting that we appoint a new person. Now, Director Crumpton, can I just ask, these are 1-year terms, are they not?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't have a chance to speak to Director Mack. I believe Director Mack is our appointee right now. Are you still prepared to do that, Director Mack?
No, if there's somebody else that wants to do this, by all means do it.
Okay. When do you need to know, Director Crompton? I believe you need to know by about tomorrow, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Director Ford?
Just a question. Is it allowed to appoint one of the alternate directors to the board? So an alternate to the SLRD, could one of those members be elected as our representative? Or do they have to be the main active member?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Let me come back to it. Director Stoner.
Director Elliott did mention that she'd be willing to act as the representative if that was allowable, or if that was of interest by the board. But she'd be willing to put her name forward.
Thank you. Does anybody know the answer to Director Ford's question? Would it have to be a director, or could it be an alternate?
I think we can appoint anyone we like, but I'll make the resolution that we appoint Director Elliott.
Director Burch-Jones, are you seconding that? Seconded by Director Burch-Jones. Any other suggestions from any other directors? Any other volunteers? Any other nominations? Excuse me.
Maybe we resolve that we appoint Director Race, and then we can have an election. I like elections.
I think Director Stoner was just about to do that, actually. She had her hand up.
Nominated, I will not run. If elected, I will not serve.
I am not seconding Director Crompton's suggestion.
No, I'm calling on you because I thought I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, I did just want to clarify so that the board is fully aware that I do sit on the Lower Mainland LGA executive as the second vice president. I was voted in as a member at large originally, or I don't know, I was voted in as third vice president is what I was voted in as. So just so that folks are aware, there is already representation from Squamish. So I don't know if that changes people's decision as they're about to vote, but I just want to make that entirely clear that I do sit on that board as well.
Okay, thank you. Kristen.
Do I?
Hi, thank you. I'm just not clear. So our current appointee is Director Mack with Director Richmond as the alternate for the executive. Is this the same? Is this a different appointment, or are we redoing that appointment? I'm not sure why this has come.
We're redoing that appointment.
The term is up. It's a one-year appointment, so we need to.
Well, we usually bring all our appointments to the November meeting, I believe. So
that was the request, though, that we've got our AGM upcoming and wanting to announce the board.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a letter from. I got a letter from the president of the Lower Mainland Local Government Association.
I think you can shorten that just to the president.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, and I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Good. So, Director Stoner, shall we leave it to you to convey that news to Karen? Thank you very much. Or actually, I'll give her a call as well. Okay.
Just a question, Chair. Are we going to appoint the alternate as well?
Yeah, hang on, I'm just looking at my notes here. We need an alternate for that position. That's what my notes say.
Would Director Mack be willing to stick around?
Yes.
I'll make that resolution.
Hear me, Jack?
Yeah, I got it. I'll make that resolution.
Seconded by Director Birch Jones. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Good. Congratulations, Director Mack.
Less work, more profile.
Let's go on to childcare in the community. Pemberton and District Chamber of Commerce requests that an SLRD staff member and/or board member participate in a joint effort to further understand the childcare needs in our community and explore ways of so on and so forth. So I've talked to Melanie about this. We really do not have any staff capacity right now to assign somebody to this task. So the question is that something that we can ask either Russell or Mike to take on, or are you already involved, and could you sort of formally act as a liaison between that group and the board? I see Director Ford would like to. Hold on, Director Ford first, then Director Mack.
I do see that it's a member of the board. I'm just offering, I would be happy to participate if that's of use to the board. I've done extensive study on this, so I'm pretty comfortable talking about it. Obviously not on Pemberton's situation, but I suggest that there's definitely some similarities between our communities.
Okay, thank you. Director Mack.
No, I think that's a good idea. Jen's got far more knowledge on this than I have. So if she's willing to do it, that's a good thing. And I'm sure that Mike, like Pemberton's already pretty well engaged in this, as he's already said. So maybe Jen could touch base with, Mike, and then everything will work out. So that's good. I'll second that. I'll second her motion.
Okay, Director Richmond. Director Richmond, did you want to comment?
No, just thumbs up.
You're okay. Oh, you're okay. Good. Well, Director Ford, thank you very much. So we will, who will we talk to? I'll leave you to talk to Melanie and for somebody to be in touch with that group and to proceed with that. So thank you. Now, we've got lots of childcare here. Coalition of Childcare Advocates of BC requests that the Squamish-Lillooet Regional District support the $10 a day childcare plan. Moved by Director Ford, seconded by Director Race. Any discussion, any questions, comment? Director Birch-Jones?
So does this mean subsidizing all families, including the very wealthy, with the $10 a day childcare plan?
Director Ford?
I've been working with this group for about 7 years. The plan is endorsed by each community or by individuals. They've got hundreds of communities that have endorsed the plan. The idea is that it's on a income ratio ability to pay. So families whose annual income is less than 40,000 would have zero fees. Essentially, there's a number of tenets to the plan that we've asked the province, and the province is committed to enacting over the next 10 years. They've committed $1 billion to this to create more spaces, to create more ECE trained staff, and to increase the wages for ECE teachers by several dollars over a series of years, which is a subsidy to the centers to better pay their staff. And then it also recommends a number of more challenging things like moving childcare out of the Ministry of Child and Family Development into the Ministry of Education, which would better align the objectives of providing childcare in community. And so a number of those pieces are attached in the plan and can be found on the website tenaday.ca. They have moved aggressively to ask communities to support the plan. So that all of this resolution is doing is asking us to support the plan and indicate our support, but probably by a letter. So, but it's a really good plan.
Thank you. Okay, I think your question was answered, Vivian, I hope. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. The next one, 12.7, is also on childcare. I received this letter from Ms. Browning, and I thought that it was just addressed to me. It didn't appear to go to anybody else. So I thought I would, given that there were already some childcare things on the agenda, I wanted to share it with the board. And I did send her a quick note to acknowledge receipt and to thank her for writing. But I would like to suggest that we send a note from the board and just perhaps reflect on the decisions we've just made about childcare, so that she knows that we are, as a board, taking it seriously. So I think I'd like to move that the board sends a letter to Ms. Browning regarding childcare. Seconded by Director DeMayor. Oh, question, Director DeMayor? Oh, okay. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. MP Patrick Weiler, Unsung Champions, invitation for nominations. Did you get a chance to look at that? What that is? If not, would you have a quick look now? I can't find it myself. So recognizing community contributions by outstanding individuals and organizations. Submit your nomination in the form below. When does it have to be in? It has to be in by November the 15th. So I would suggest that you take a look at what Patrick has sent us. Think about it. If there is anybody you think as a board we could recommend or nominate, bring that to the next board meeting. And I'll make sure this is on the agenda just as a follow-up. If we decide not to do it, then that's fine. So if I could just move receipt of Patrick's letter, moved by Director Ford, seconded by Director Stoner. Call the question, all in favor, opposed, motion carries. The next one is request for support, TELUS prioritization of rural connectivity. TELUS, Shaw's new best friend. So can we have a motion to support that, please? Moved by Director Jones.
No. I was just going to move receipt.
Oh, move receipt. We don't want to send a letter? Director Ford.
I was just going to say, after our meeting with Minister Kang the other day, I think that we've already asked for provincial support of connectivity in rural areas, and this would be a sort of a good next step to further supporting our communities that are further afield.
So you're moving this? Yeah. Director Ray seconded? Yeah. Do you wish to speak as well? No? No. Okay. It's moved and seconded, so I'll call question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Do we have any additional late business? No? Okay. Late business. Correspondence for action, invitation, Sea to Sky Destination Management Council, Sea to Sky Corridor Destination Development Strategies. So we have a letter from Destination BC providing the terms of reference for the Sea to Sky Destination Development Council and requesting participation in the council by SLRD staff. Melanie, I didn't get a chance to talk to you on this one. How are we positioned for that?
Thank you, Chair Rainbow. So I don't know which staff member we would actually be using at this point, but what they're looking for is for participation into their group that they have.
Okay, how do we feel about that? Any comments? And presumably we either write back to them and say, no, sorry, we don't have anybody, or we write back and we say, yes, we will support you and we will provide some staff time. That needs to be a board decision. Director Richmond.
I would say we would support it if staff, and it might be too early for Melanie to make that call, but if we feel that we have staff capacity to sit there, then that'd be great. But if Ms. Helmer doesn't think that that's viable at this point, then I support that as well.
So can we make a motion to the effect that we would support this when our CAO feels that she has the ability to do so? So that it indicates a level of support, but allows some flexibility in terms of timing. Would that work for you, Melanie?
Yes, for sure, that would work. Then it is an important group and initiative, and then we would look at how we can accommodate that and when we could accommodate that.
Okay, so Mike, with that, Director Richmond, with that motion, would you thumbs up? Good, thank you. Director Race, you had a comment? Seconded? Okay, so it's moved and seconded then. We generally support this with the flexibility, giving Melanie flexibility in terms of timing. Any other comments? Okay, I'll call the question. Sorry, Director Demare.
Yes, with Destination BC, if we're going to be engaged, I would definitely want the staff to talk about the lack of infrastructure in any discussions that they have with them. So yeah. That's one thing that we have a lack of here, Area B also, and and I presume area C.
Okay, noted. Thank you. Any further comments? Yeah, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Correspondence for information. Brian Moorhead, Brian Owen, Fine Peace Development Letter of Support. Move receipt from someone. Move receipt, Director Ford. Second, Director Richmond. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Any director's notice of motion? Oh, I'm sorry, Director Race. There you go.
Sorry, just on these types of coming in about a development matter, may I suggest with respect to the previous motion that we start referring them to staff, because I think they actually should form part of the development package. Correspondence from the public and support or commenting on a development is something that ultimately forms part of the development package that is really part of the public hearing package. Kind of goes back to earlier conversations. So, and this probably won't be the only one, and there'll be some for and some against, I'm sure. And we might as well now just all steer them right directly to planning to become part of they actually become part of the record. So.
So you could move that now, and we've just moved to receive it, but you could follow that up with a resolution to.
I'll move this and any following letters concerning that development be referred to staff.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder? Seconded by
Do we
Director.
not still have sorry, do we not still have a motion on the floor that needs to be voted?
I thought I voted on that.
We voted on that.
We did that.
You vote receipt?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
So now we've got a motion suggesting that this be referred to start this and any further correspondence regarding this development be directed to staff without coming through the board. That's what I'm understanding there.
Well, we can see it. But ultimately, I mean, it'll go on the agenda. But I think we want to, because we have to see it at some point, but it would become part of the staff record for this particular development.
Okay, that's clear.
So whether we do it for everything or whether we just do it one at a time, it doesn't matter to me. But I think that's a better disposition of these things.
Okay, thank you. Kristen, you wanted to comment, and then Director Ford.
Thank you. I just wanted to say there were a number of items on the consent agenda as well referring to this. So the wording that I have is that this and all following letters be referred to staff. We also have the ones that were received earlier in the meeting.
Can we just shift the wording a little to incorporate the ones that were there earlier as well?
Yep.
Okay, so we're talking about this letter, the ones that were in the consent agenda, and any further ones that come in at a later date. Good, thank you. Any other comments? Director Ford.
Just as a matter of process, is when letters are received on any topic, should they be sort of bundled so that you're not going back through old packages looking for a letter that ended up on a consent agenda here, ended up as late business here? I mean, really a letter regarding a rezoning should all be bundled so that the entire package of letters is received and then appended to that rezoning application for consideration at one time, rather than relying on people's memory of when that letter was received and at what point was it referred or not referred or received. So it would be helpful to me to understand what the process of correspondence being received by the district and when it's decided that it will be attached to this agenda or that agenda. And we don't have to have this whole conversation now, but it may just be helpful, you know, at a future conversation.
I'm assuming that now we refer these things to staff, that they will put them in one file and add to that file. But Melanie, we'll leave that with you.
So thank you, Chair Rainbow. So what I have seen so far is that when the items come in particular, the letters that are being referenced, they were provided to myself and to our corporate officer and placed on the agenda. At the same time, a copy was forwarded to planning for their records so that they could in fact be placed in those files. It was a simultaneous process.
Okay. Do we need this motion then?
Maybe not.
What it sounds like to me is that when staff receive this, it goes on the agenda so that we get to see it. And as Melanie just said, simultaneously goes to planning so that they can put it in the file for that particular development. So given that, we probably don't need the motion. Director Reyes?
Yeah, thank you. My concern was that it forms part on a rezoning application, which is a little different from many other topics. It forms part of the public record. And so the public has to be able to see that. So, so theoretically, the public can inspect the correspondence if they wanted to. But if that's happening anyway, then you're right. There's no need for my motion, and I'm prepared to withdraw it.
Okay, thank you. Director Weaver, is your hand up to speak, or it is drying your nail varnish? Okay, so we've rescinded that. Well, we've withdrawn that motion. So we can move ahead then. So we need to, where am I? Recess. I was just asking, any director's notice of motion? No. So we recess this meeting now until September the 17th and pick it up at the end of the committee of the whole. But do we need to go back into close now? Come on, help me out, somebody. Thursday? No, we don't. I think we're done for the day.
Except for the hospital district.
Well, yeah, that's a completely different thing, though. That's not us. Okay, so we're recessed until tomorrow, as far as this meeting is concerned. So those of us that are not part of the Sea to Sky Regional Hospital District, we'll say farewell. Dr. Weave, did you want to say something to us other than goodbye?
Yes, I'm a little confused about tomorrow. So we sign in for the committee of the whole, and then is there a pause or something for this conference call?
Yeah.
At 10 and then come back in again?
Yeah.
I just want to have it in my head.
Yeah, that's basically what we're doing. And also tomorrow, several people from municipalities have meetings at various times and will have to leave us and come back. We're hoping that we won't drop below quorum at any one time. You know, as long as we can maintain quorum, we can keep going. If there is a point where we have so many people away at another meeting that we don't have quorum, then we'll have to recess until we can get it back again. So be prepared to be flexible tomorrow. Okay, so with that, Director Birch-Jones, Director DeMere, Director Weeb, farewell. See you tomorrow. And
thank you. Bye-bye.